This video is brought to you by Atlas VPN.
See, that's exactly what I mean. This one sentence is the reason why I chose this article. This one sentence. So, Kotaro-kun, go get them. I don't know what I'm on about. Hello noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today we have got another response to one of the lists on Listverse. You will find a link in the description below. I say another response because I've already made a video response to one of their lists. You'll find a link in the description below. And on that specific article, they were trying to push the idea that medieval knights were horrible warriors. You can already imagine how that one went. Now, the topic for today's list is feudal Japan, the samurai, hence my dressing up in armor. I'll try not to be too pedantic, I don't want to be picky, I don't want to be the guy that says, actually, I won't do that, okay? I'll try to be nice, but you need to check this one out. Okay, so the list is called 10 Fascinating Facts About the Samurai. Let's check it out. Samurai are legendary warriors and perhaps the most well-known class of people in ancient Japan. They were noble fighters that fought evil and each other with their swords and frightening armor, following a strict moral code that governed their entire life. That's the popular idea, anyway. In reality, there's much more to the samurai. Well, at least differently from the previous video, this article has a good premise. Now let's see if they can live up to it. 10 female samurai. While samurai is a strictly masculine term, the Japanese Bushi class did feature women who received similar training in martial arts and strategy. These women were called Onabu Geisha. Since historical texts offer relatively few accounts of these female warriors, we used to assume they were just a tiny minority. However, recent research indicates that Japanese women participated in battle quite a lot more often than history books admit. When remains from the site of the Battle of Senbon Matsubaru in 1580 were DNA tested, 35 out of 105 bodies were female. Research on other sites has yielded similar results. It's true that Onabu Geisha happened, it's a historical fact, but I think they're overplaying it a little bit. Still, the majority of samurai and warriors in the Japanese feudal battlefields were men. Number 9, the armor, and this is where the situation starts going out of control. As you would imagine, what is it with people in armor? The strangest thing about the samurai is probably their weird-looking ornate armor. However, each piece of it was functional, absolutely. The samurai armor, unlike the armor worn by European knights, was always designed for mobility. See, that's exactly what I mean. This one sentence is the reason why I chose this article. This one sentence. So, Kotaro-kun, go get them. Where do I even begin? There is this trope for some reasons that whoever likes and loves Japanese armor, weapons, martial arts, swords, you name it, whenever they praise the wonders of Japanese weapons, Japanese swords, Japanese armor, they always have to do it at the expenses of their European counterparts. It's like you have to shit on European medieval knights whenever you say good things about feudal Japan. And for those of you who have missed that one, let me remind you this specific museum guide.
Here's a complete set of armor. You have the cuirass, the chest armor, goes around the body. So it's pretty well encased. It's pretty light. It's only about 40 pounds.
Oh.
Whereas a set of Western armor, looks like a tin can. It's like Wizard of Oz. That's like 100 pounds. Looks like a tin can. Looks like a tin can.
Looks like a tin can.
So those in a set of Western metal armor, you can't ride on a horse. You can ride on a horse, you can't get on the horse. You can't sit down.
Be zen about it. Tin can. Now, of course, this article was fact-checked, whatever that means. I think they need a fact-checker for the fact-checker. Let's debunk this. Is it true that samurai armor was designed with mobility in mind? Generally speaking, yes, but that statement can be applied to any armor throughout the history of mankind. Every single type of armor is designed for mobility and protection, and of course, how much mobility you gain and how much protection you lose, it's a personal choice, but that's why you've got all sorts of different possible configurations everywhere, including medieval Europe. As we continue reading, you'll see that he'll mention big shoulder plates, like he called them shields, but he's talking about the osode, which means that the kind of samurai armor they mean is oyoroi, that it's the kind of armor that most people associate with the samurai if they have never studied samurai armor. That's the one usually you imagine with the big shoulder plates, just like they are saying. That specific type of armor was not designed for mobility. It weighed 30 kilograms, it hung on the shoulders, it was very heavy, not very mobile at all, but it did maximize protection, and it was supposed to be used by a mounted samurai. Now, of course, the Oyoro is not the only type of armor that samurai had access to. The Domaru, for example, the one that just wraps around you, was a lot lighter, and yes, that one was compromising some protection in order to gain more mobility. So kind of similar to a European brigandine, meaning that the same option was available in Europe. But the part that really makes me laugh is that when you look at the Oyoro, so again, super heavy, right? And then you compare it to the kind of suits of armor worn by the mounted nobility in medieval Europe at that specific time, so between the 10th to the, I want to say, 13th century, most medieval knights by then were wearing mail, which means that ultimately, for a big span of 300 years, the samurai would be the one wearing heavy, clumsy armor, and the European knights were wearing lighter and more mobile types of armor. Of course, if you look at the kind of armor that I am wearing, which is a 16th century Tosei Gusoku, or modern armor of the, I want to say, Sengoku period all the way up to the Edo period, this kind of samurai armor compared to the Oyoro is definitely smaller, lighter, it has a lower profile, it does not hang on my shoulders because most of the weight is at the natural waist. So yes, if you compare this one to a, I want to say, late 16th century type of full plate armor for a medieval knight, or even 15th century, then yes, this one gives you more mobility. But even full plate armor, which I do own, as you can see here I'm wearing it, still gives you great mobility. It just needs to be very well fitting. Runt over, let's continue. Runt over, he said, not even close. Now, if you're enjoying this video so far, I am sure you're gonna like the next point because, gosh, I've got some stuff to debunk there. But before we do that, I would like to mention the kind sponsor for this video, Atlas VPN.
A VPN is a virtual private network that makes all of your internet traffic travel through an encrypted tunnel, and this way it protects you from spying, public Wi-Fi dangers, it hides your IP address, and online activities. Atlas VPN is a great choice because it was developed by cyber security specialists and, among other things, it gives you access to the Data Breach Monitor, which is a security feature designed to track any data breaches related to your online accounts, automatically scanning any leaked information. But another add-on through Atlas VPN is the fact that you can use Netflix from any country regardless of where you are. So let's say you wanted to watch a show that they only broadcast in the UK, but you were in America, no problem, just change your country through the VPN and boom, access granted. I personally always have Atlas VPN active on my machines because one account lets you use unlimited devices. Not only Atlas VPN is a great choice, but it's also a very affordable one.
Now, today is the perfect day to start using Atlas VPN because you've got the Christmas deal. Have a private Christmas and a safe New Year with Atlas VPN Premium. You can have it for just $1.70 per month, plus 6 months for free with a 30-day money-back guarantee.
So if you have been considering getting a VPN but you weren't sure about the prices, well, now is the time. Only $1.70 per month, plus 6 months extra, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Since this is just a limited time offer, make sure to be quick. Click the link in the description below, get your deal. And big thanks to Atlas VPN for sponsoring my channel.
The arms were protected by large rectangular shoulder shields and light armored sleeves. And absolutely, these are light and grant a lot of mobility and freedom of movement. They are great, particularly if you undo the hand part. As soldiers, samurai employed a number of different weapons. They originally carried a sword called a chokuto, which was essentially a slimmer, smaller version of the straight swords later used by medieval knights. It literally, like a chokuto, if you really want to go there, compare it with a Roman spada. It's just straight. It has nothing to do with the sort of spada di lato, spada longa, all the other types of swords used by the great sword by medieval knights. I just don't see it. But regardless, the chokuto and the samurai, well, let's see what else they say. As sword-making techniques progressed, the samurai switched to curved swords, which eventually evolved into the katana. It's kind of difficult to choose a specific one exact date that all historians will agree about the beginning of the samurai class. But I think it's a safe assumption to say the samurai class, roughly speaking, probably began the way we understand it in the 10th century. If you want to follow tradition, then Taira no Masakado is considered to be the first samurai, and he was born in 903. The chokuto, however, started to be discontinued already in 700 AD, and by the beginning of the 10th century was completely obsolete. The katana is perhaps the most famous sword type in the world and certainly the most iconic of all samurai weapons. Bushido, the samurai code, dictated that the samurai's soul was in his katana, and this is again a massive myth. It's a myth not in the sense that nobody believed this, they did, but they did in the Edo period, in the period of peace. It has nothing to do with the samurai 10th century, 11th century, 12th, 13th, 14th, throughout the entirety of the Sengoku Jidai. All the different clans, all the most famous battles, no one believed that at that time. It was not pushed. It's a philosophy that came about during the era of peace. So Bushido dictated that the samurai soul was in his katana, which made it the most important weapon he carried. The katana was a side weapon. The katana was not the most important weapon a samurai carried. In fact, the most important weapons that a samurai carried, depending on what era we're talking about, were bow and arrow, spears of all sorts, whether it be the yari, naginata, sometimes bisento, axes or ono, anti-armor weapons like the kanabo, and then the katana, just as a backup weapon. Now in town, so not during war, then absolutely the katana is one of the most important weapons that the samurai is carrying without his battle armor for personal defense. But we do know that whenever they would enter the home, they would give up the katana because, I mean, walking around the home, you could smack something, break a vase, and they would only keep the wakizashi or the tanto for personal protection inside the home. Just a little piece of trivia that could be interesting for you. While some samurai did indeed fight with nothing but their katana, most took a more practical approach. This is really strange that they would say that. No samurai that I'm aware of ever went to war with his katana as its only weapon. When gunpowder was introduced in the 16th century, the samurai abandoned their bows in favor of firearms and cannons. I do want to make sure that you get the correct information. Even though gunner units using the Tanegashima Teppo matchlock type arquebus became very important, if not fundamental, particularly for specific clans, they never completely replaced archers. In fact, when you read the sort of army composition as it's described, I don't remember the exact number, but they do tell you per every unit of gunners place this number of units of archers. It's not that they gave up the bow to get the gun. Number 3, education, and here we're going back to the medieval European sucked sort of approach. As the essential nobility of their era, members of the samurai class were far more than mere warriors. True. The majority of samurai were very well educated at a time when very few Europeans could read. The level of samurai literacy was extremely high. They were also skilled in mathematics. I find this very silly. You know why it's incorrect? Because it's unfair. If you look at it, it's comparing the literacy of the entirety of the population of Europe, meaning all sorts of farmers and peasants and fishermen, to the samurai class, which are only 10% of the entirety of Japan. It's stupid, because you can do the same thing in reverse. You can take medieval nobility and maybe put in a little bit of clergy as well, since the samurai were also strict Buddhists, and then compare it to the average literacy of Japanese farmers and fishermen. Now it's the European that are going to look like, wow, they are so literate. But it's still not fair to compare the elite unit to the general populace in Europe and then say, the samurai were very literate, not like those illiterate idiots in medieval Europe. Not a fair comparison and hence not professional. Physical characteristics, the imposing armor and weaponry makes the samurai seem gigantic, and they're often depicted as quite large and well built in pop culture. This could not be farther from the truth. In reality, most samurai were quite tiny. A 16th century samurai were usually very slim, ranging from 160 to 165 centimeters in height. For comparison, European knights of the same period probably ranged from 180 to 196 centimeters. Okay, 180 to 195 average? Not even today. It's true that usually Europeans are considered to be, particularly in the Middle Ages, people tend to spread the myth that everyone was short, which is incorrect. The difference between height in the medieval period and height today, there is a little difference, but it's not that significant. But still, the knights didn't average 196. Have you seen the suits of armor? Compared to the average Japanese person, members of the samurai class were noticeably hairier and their skin was lighter. Their profile, namely the bridge of their nose, was also distinctly more European-eyed. This is complete fantasy. In an ironic twist, this seems to indicate that the samurai actually descend from an ethnic group called the Ainu, who are considered inferior by the Japanese and are often the subject of discrimination. Yeah, I think they're just trying to bring up this idea of let's defend minorities, but this has absolutely no historical, no archaeological, no osteological, no any logical backup. I don't know what he's on about. Saying that all samurai descend from the Ainu because they have a big nose and they are hairy. I think fact checked doesn't mean much on this website. Okay, this kind of concludes this article review. I hope you have enjoyed it. I'm sure they also have some nice articles. I don't want to say that this entire website is horrible. I don't know, maybe it is, and if it is, I will say it, but maybe not. I mean, I still want to give him a fair chance. I'll keep on reading some of these articles, but so far, this one and the night one, I want to say, they really need to be re-fact checked. Alright, but thank you very much for watching, Noble Ones. If you like this video, please thumbs up, and if you're not yet a member of this community, become a Noble One, subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron, and don't forget the amazing offer by Atlas VPN, link in the description below. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron, let's spread his wings. Saraba.